Pseudo-Legendaries, or the 600 Club, or Powerhouse Pokemon. What do I even title this video? I don't know, but the point is, we're ranking the big, strong dudes that evolve above level 50 and have 600 base stat total. This includes Dragonite, Tyranitar, Metagross, Salamence, Garchomp, Hydreigon, Goodra, Kommo-o, Dragapult, Hisuian Goodra, and Baxcalibur. I'm mainly a VGC player, so I have a bias towards that as a format, but I'll keep singles in mind where it's relevant. We'll be ranking these Pokemon based entirely upon their strength and overall competitive viability. And of course, it'll be in a tier list format, because YouTube loves those. Or icebergs, I don't know. But most of these are dragons, so I guess that's not really a good idea. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video at any point in time, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. As a matter of fact, you should really just subscribe right now because I have a playlist full of content just like this that you can watch once this video ends. And if you think you're subscribed, do me a favor and double check because a lot of my viewers actually aren't. With that, let's get into the video. But not before I plug my YouTube channel memberships. If you click the join button, not only do you get access to bonus videos every week and access to my podcast with Jody Azzarelli, but you also can join my members only Discord where we team build and discuss Pokemon broadly. You also get a badge by your name in the comments and in my live streams, and you get to see your name at the end of these videos. Lots of cool perks there, so consider supporting me with the channel membership. Now back to the video. Alright, so for this video we'll be going in generational order with our ranking. These Pokemon can be anywhere between F and S tier, but keep in mind that the ranking of these Pokemon are relative to each other. So an F tier Pseudo-Legendary isn't necessarily an F tier Pokemon, but it might be. I don't know. Go argue in the comments. Oh, and we won't be discussing Mega Forms for this list. These rankings are based purely on their base forms. First up, we have the original Dragon Pokemon. Nope, not that one. Dragonite was the very first Pseudo-Legendary Pokemon, and man, for Generation 1, these stats were ridiculous. And I mean, even for today, Gen 9 Dragonite is still putting up some pretty impressive numbers. As a Dragon Flying type, Dragonite is weak to Fairy, Rock, and Dragon moves, but also has a 4x weakness to Ice type attacks. That being said, it also resists Water, Grass, Fire, Bug, and Fighting moves. It's pretty well rounded defensively with those type matchups, and with 94, 95, 100 bulk, it's already difficult to one-shot. But it becomes basically impossible to one-shot when you take into account its hidden ability of Multiscale, which halves incoming damage when Dragonite is at full health. Slap a 134 attack stat, 100 special attack stat, and 80 speed on top of all of that, and you got one workhorse of a Pokemon. Normally, Generation 1 Pokemon don't age very gracefully, falling more and more out of favor with competitive players over time, but Dragonite absolutely defies that trend. Dragonite has only gotten stronger with each generation, especially with it having access to Inner Focus as an ability since Generation 3. Originally, Inner Focus was basically a useless ability that just prevented flinching, but since Generation 8, Inner Focus also prevents the user from having its attack stat lowered by Intimidate. So Dragonite is able to lead off against Pokemon like Incineroar and literally just not care. It can do whatever it wants turn 1, and man can it do stuff. That 130 attack stat enables movesets like Choice Band Outrage plus Extreme Speed, Assault Vest Ice Spinner utility, and even Loaded Dice Scale Shot to bypass opposing multiscales and outspeed most other Pokemon in the game while dealing major damage to the opponent. What began as a very niche pick in doubles has slowly become one of the faces of hyper offense, especially with it gaining better partners and moves throughout the generations. This one is going to be a hot take for sure, but I can't think of a Pokemon more deserving of the S tier slot. This isn't just a ranking, it's an investment. Early adopters of Dragonite have only seen gains throughout the years, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down. Yeah, Dragonite kicks off this list with an S tier ranking. I hate sand. It's something I've never seen in the prequel Star Wars movies. Tyranitar is among the first Dark-type Pokemon who were introduced in Generation 2. Making the second ever Pseudo-Legendary a Rock-type is a bold move considering how bad Rock-types used to be in competitive. But this dude was the face of the type back then and remains that today. Rock and Dark obviously comes with numerous weaknesses, like a lot. Tyranitar is weak to Ground, Bug, Steel, Fairy, Grass, and Water moves, and it has a 4x weakness to Fighting moves. However, it does have some pretty important resists, including Dark, Fire, and Ghost. Its stats are simply incredible with 100 HP, 110 defense, and 100 special defense. It somewhat makes up for its weaknesses with that impressive bulk. Offensively, it has 134 attack. I never realized that the first two Pseudo-Legendaries have the exact same specific attack stat. Like, that's a really specific number. Not 130, not 135, not 140, it's 134. I'm not sure why. But it also boasts an 85 special attack stat and a reasonable 61 speed. Since Generation 3, it's also had access to the ability Sandstream, an ability which sets Sandstorm on the field, not only dealing residual damage to all Pokemon who aren't Rock, Steel, or Ground type, but also boosts the special defense of Rock types such as Tyranitar itself by 50%, meaning its bulk goes through the roof when you give this thing an Assault Vest. Its sand is mostly used to benefit its partners, however, most notably Excadrill, who can then double its speed with Sand Rush and spam moves like Iron Head, Rock Slide, and High Horsepower to pick up major damage or KOs on the fairy types that would otherwise threaten Tyranitar. That being said, as the years go on, Tyranitar has somewhat slowly fallen off in both VGC and singles, with it dropping down to UU in Generation 9 Smogon singles. While it's not nearly as dominant as it used to be depending on the format's rules, Tyranitar remains a Pokemon that players need to be prepped for. It's still winning regionals to this day, even if it's not as often. I'll give it an S tier ranking purely because of its history and the fact that it's still strong 7 generations later. With Generation 3, we have our first, and only, generation with 2 pseudo-legendary Pokemon. We were given not only Metagross, but Salamence. Metagross is a notable pseudo-legendary Pokemon because it was the first pseudo-legendary designed with an ability in mind. From this point on, abilities would be a core mechanic of Pokemon and an important part of their competitive design alongside their typing, movesets, and stats. Every pseudo-legendary prior to this was given their abilities after the fact, but Metagross was created with its in mind. Clear Body prevents Metagross from having any of its stats lowered by opposing Pokemon. This is a strong counter to Salamence's Intimidate, which lowers the opposing Pokemon's attack stat on switch-in, an ability which would go on to shape VGC in the future. With Metagross's 80 HP, 135 attack, 130 defense, 95 special attack, 90 special defense, and 70 speed, getting to keep its stats consistently high during a match is invaluable. Obviously, defensively, Steel is a phenomenal type, but Steel and Psychic offensively is pretty notable. Mind you, this is alongside great coverage that Metagross has access to, from Ice Punch to Stomping Tantrum to even Knockoff, meaning Metagross has options into Ghost-type Pokemon which would normally threaten it. That being said, Metagross has just been a consistently strong pick. There haven't been too many peaks in power save for Generation 8 where it was a strong Dynamax option. But besides that, there haven't been a lot of moments, especially since we're not taking into account Megaforms, since that Mega buff really put it over the top back in Generation 6 and 7. There isn't too much more to say. Metagross is the face of Pokemon that will never be all that bad. You'll always get away with running one. Into C tier it goes. Okay, now for Salamence. I'd say Salamence is the face of the pseudo-legendaries that just didn't really need a Megaform, but got one anyways. Look, a Dragon Flying type with stats like this and Intimidate, yeah, this is the type of power creep that we talk about today. And the fact that it just came around one generation after Sunflora, that's a huge jump. Salamence has had a pretty extensive VGC career, with it being a solid Tailwind Pokemon, an Intimidate user, and a powerful physical and special attacker. It's been in finals of the World Championships a few times, but its power has definitely degraded over the years. Fairy types becoming a thing in Generation 6 definitely has given Salamence some grief, especially considering its special bulk is just good but not great. And mind you, it's competing with Dragonite for a spot on a team when you realize that they have very similar tools beyond Intimidate. Only Dragonite has priority moves on top of all that. But Salamence has become a far more niche option on teams, with it mostly being used for Intimidate and its special attack stats since its Draco Meteors and Hurricanes hit pretty hard. Its overall bulk lets it support a team and reset Tailwind later on in games if need be, but overall it's certainly seen a bit of a fall off from its glory days. For that reason, I'm going to place Salamence squarely in the B tier. Okay Sinnoh fans, I'm not going to make you mad with my take on Garchomp, but I'm going to be realistic here. Garchomp has incredible stats. 130 attack, base 102 speed means that it not only hits hard, but it's going to be faster than the majority of Pokemon in the game. And by no means is it a glass cannon. Its bulk's great with 108 HP, 95 defense, and 85 special defense. Stats like these allowed for this Dragon Ground type to run a variety of sets, from Rocky Helmet in singles, to Choice Band, to Choice Scarf, Assault Vest, and Life Orb in doubles. And it got even better in Regulation H with it being able to run the Clear Amulet, meaning it doesn't have to worry about speed or attack drops. It started out life in Ubers for Gen 4 singles, and while it's now just UUBL, it's still quite a powerful Pokemon. In doubles, it's also been fairly strong with its speed tier carrying it the whole way, but that speed tier has slowly become its downfall. By no means is it slow, but modern VGC has numerous Pokemon exceeding 110 speed, including Ogerpon, Tornadus, Fluttermane, Chien-Pao, and Dragapult. Garchomp's base 102 speed just doesn't go as far as it used to, but that's to be expected with 5 generations of power creep. Rillaboom has been an especially annoying Pokemon for Garchomp to deal with at times, since grassy terrain quarters the damage that Earthquake can do. Garchomp has since been given Stomping Tantrum to circumvent this, but Garchomp is at its happiest when it's able to spam Swords Dance Earthquake next to an immune or protecting Pokemon. But Garchomp still gets by, despite it having to compete with the likes of both Landorus forms and other Dragon types for a spot on the team. Garchomp's strongest performance in Generation 9 has to be in the Regulation H format, where all legendary Pokemon were banned. This allowed for Garchomp to play in an environment free of the various faster legendaries and Landorus. Its long career and consistent viability is more than enough to put Garchomp at the top of B tier. Generation 5's Hydreigon has some great things going for it. In Gen 5, Dark Dragon was a devastating type, especially with the ground immunity thanks to Levitate. But today, Look, it's one thing being weak to fighting and ice, a lot of great Pokemon are, but when you add a 4x fairy weakness on top of it, things get a bit tricky. Not to mention, it's not quite hitting that valuable 100 base speed tier since it's only got 98 base speed. Hydreigon isn't unviable by any means. Like I said, it's got a lot going for it. A Draco Meteor or Dark Pulse coming from base 125 special attack is gonna hurt, but Hydreigon is consistently fighting for its spot on a team. Some of its best moments have been early in Generation 9. Terastallization was a huge boon for it considering it could swap to a type that allowed it to resist incoming fairy moves. Notably, it would turn into a fire type to boost Heat Wave after setting up guaranteed crits with Focus Energy and a Scope Lens, making it hit like a truck while also having a solid defensive type. But overall, Hydreigon's impact on VGC has been pretty sporadic and not quite at the level of its contemporaries. It does have its moments here and there though, so it'll be going into C tier. Okay, let's get sad. Big spoilers here, it's F tier. Be so for real with me. When's the last time you saw this lovable slug do anything? Pure Dragon typing is great defensively and its bulk is nothing to scoff at. 90 HP, 70 defense, and a whole 150 special defense? The issues come with everything else. Look, 100 attack and 110 special attack isn't really cutting it offensively. Draco Meteor will hurt, but it's entirely because of its base power. Goodra's real value comes from its coverage options. It's one of the few dragons who can use Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam. But it's just not enough to use it over anything else though. Yes, you can tank special hits like no one else. Yes, it can smack most Pokemon for super effective damage, but it's not doing enough damage. And with no recovery options other than Life Dew in recent generations, I just can't recommend anyone try this Pokemon in modern VGC. Have fun in F tier, big guy. Okay, Gen 7's Kommo-o. This one is pretty interesting, because Kommo-o is once again a Pokemon that gets better with age. It does have the same downside of Hydreigon in not being super fast, but Kommo-o has far better bulk than Hydreigon as well, with 75 HP, 125 defense, and 105 special defense. Offensively, it's got the same deal going as Goodra, just flipped, with 110 attack and 100 special attack. And this is all on top of it also having a ×4 fairy weakness. But it goes much further than both of these Pokemon because of its signature move of Clanging Scales combined with Clangor's Soul. Clangor's Soul was a move that's sort of a diet version of its Gen 7 Z move, Clangor's Soul Blaze. Clangor's Soul Blaze would boost all of its stats by one stage before attacking both opponents with a strong dragon move. Clangor's Soul, on the other hand, sacrifices a third of Kommo-o's HP to give it an Omni boost. From here, it can spam Clanging Scales to sweep. But even better for it is the combination of Iron Defense and Body Press. This duo of moves allows for Kommo-o to attack with its defensive stat, which is much higher than its actual offensive stats. And when you give it an ability like Soundproof, this also allows for Kommo-o to ignore strats meant to bypass defenses like Perish Song. Kommo-o has been able to pull consistent results throughout its career despite it not being the strongest of the pseudo-legendaries. For that reason, I think it's deserving of sitting at the top of C tier. Hello power creep, Dragapult. Okay, it seems that in Gen 8, Game Freak got bored of making mid-speed pseudo-legendaries and thought it was time to hit the gas. Like, really hit the gas. Dragapult is not only a Pokemon with 120 attack and 100 special attack, but it has 142 base speed. It's also a ghost type with clear body. This means it's immune to both Intimidate and Fake Out. Yeah, this guy's good in doubles. In Dragapult's relatively short VGC career, it's been able to win multiple regionals and online events, but it's boasted a number of movesets throughout those formats. From support for Dynamax Colossal with Screens, Breaking Swipe, and Surf, to its modern set of Choice Band, Terra Dragon, or Terra Ghost. Dragapult even has one of the most busted moves in the game with Dragon Darts. This base 50 power move hits twice, effectively making it 100 base power, which is 20 more power than Dragon Claw. But it also has smart targeting. In doubles, this move will hit each Pokemon once, but it also just plays the game for you sometimes. If Dragon Darts for any reason is not going to hit one of the Pokemon, whether it be due to an immunity, protect, or even a miss, the Dragon Dart will simply redirect into the other Pokemon, hitting it twice instead. Choice Band Terra Dragon Dragon Darts is an extremely difficult move to survive, especially with Chen Pao at Dragapult's side. Dragapult's 142 base speed really puts it in a safe spot, considering the fastest non-restricted Pokemon introduced in Gen 9 was only 136 speed. So this thing will almost always move first. Oh, you want to hit Dragapult? Well, you gotta survive the turn to do it. It's even one of the best Pokemon in Gen 9 OU, with its Infiltrator set being able to bypass substitutes and screens. Yeah, straight into A tier. Not quite S because it just doesn't have the career for it yet, but give it some time, it'll get there. Backtracking to Goodra, it looks like Goodra took some notes from Komodo because in Pokemon Legends Arceus we got a brand new Goodra form which gained the Steel type. That's cool, I guess. It's certainly an improvement, but it's still lacking those offensive stats, even if it got physically bulkier. Hisuian Goodra only had one generation to prove itself, and so far all it can really muster is an Iron Defense body press set with shell armor. This means that Goodra cannot be crit by any move, making it more consistent into the likes of Urshifu. But it's still not quite as strong as the other pseudo-legendaries and just doesn't have the results to back it. So I'm going to be nice and put this dude in D tier. Not terrible, but the most niche of the pseudos by far. Remember how we thought 142 base speed was fast? Well, how about 145 attack, because Baxcalibur has that. Baxcalibur is just the damage Pokemon, to make up for its poor defensive Ice Dragon typing, but while this is a bad typing defensively, it's one of the strongest offensively. Its bulk also doesn't go as far into leaning into being a defensive Pokemon because the last thing we need is another defensive Ice type. 87 speed isn't super high, but Baxcalibur was introduced in the same generation as Loaded Dice, an item which allows for Baxcalibur to have all of its multi-hit moves hit 4 to 5 times. This means that Scale Shot, a dragon attack which boosts speed at the expense of defense, allows for Baxcalibur to speed past most other Pokemon while also probably KOing them. This also combos well with Icicle Spear, resulting in a 100 to 125 base power Ice-type attack. Also keep in mind its signature move of Glaive Rush, which is an absurd 120 base power dragon move, with the downside of Baxcalibur not being able to dodge an attack and taking double damage until it attacks again, which you can completely bypass simply by clicking the priority move of Ice Shard. All this on top of Thermal Exchange, an ability which gives it a burn immunity and boosts the attack stat every time it gets hit by a fire move. It won a regional and international at the start of Scarlet and Violet VGC, but it's remained a strong niche pick in later formats like Regulation C and Regulation H. Much like Dragapult, it just doesn't have the history to place it super high on the tier list though, but it's got a long career ahead of it, so I'll gladly place Baxcalibur at the bottom of B tier. This leaves us with a final list of Goodra in F tier, Hisuian Goodra in D tier, Komodo, Hydreigon, and Metagross in C tier, Garchomp, Salamence, and Baxcalibur in B tier, Dragapult in A tier, and Dragonite and Tyranitar in S tier. But that's just my personal opinion. What do you think about this list? How would you change it? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you made it to the end, spread some misinformation about how I put Dragapult in F tier, or how that was like a smart decision and very justified or something. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It'd mean the world to me. If you want to support me further, you can check out my Patreon page or become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button below. This gets you sneak peeks at future videos, bonus content, and access to my supporter-only Discord, where you can hang out and team build with other community members. You also see your name at the end of videos like all these lovely people. Special thanks to my most boosted supporters, Avatar67, Ethan Lapointe, and Maury House, for their generous pledges. Another way to support me is to check out all the videos on the playlist on screen right now. I know you'll find something in there that you'll enjoy. I also have a second channel where I do VGC laddering and a Twitch channel where I stream, both of which are in the description below. Or you can just tune into my YouTube live streams Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. CST. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.